Hi, everybody. October 24th, 2022, 2021. Mary Conley, Jacksonville, Florida. Um, my security job is in jeopardy. That's too weird. I was in there for hours and hours, and I started thinking about, can I psychoanalyze Theodore Bundy? This has nothing to do with our encounter or anything like that, but I started thinking about, why did his demeanor, as Polly Nelson, the attorney, said, turn dark? And he seemed to go darker all over. And Mr. Alloy, his defense investigator, said he was the closest thing that he had ever seen to the devil. And then Stephen McChoud said his eyes would go absolutely black, and a little whelp would form on his cheek and start throbbing. So I'm thinking, okay. And you read about Tommy Lynn Sells, and you read about what's the name of that other guy that was in Florida? Stop. You read about John Gacy, and you think, okay, we have a local pervert named Donald Smith, and he would swing his hips a certain way, and he always had some kind of issue. But what, Miss Lily? Not right now, okay? Anyway, let's do John Gacy. I don't know if it's John Wayne Gacy. I don't know that much about it, but I know his father demeaned him and said he didn't want his son to be a pansy, and his church would say homosexuality is a sin. It's a grotesque. It's forbidden. We don't do that. Anybody doing that is an aberration of something against God, whatever that word is. I can't think of it right now. So he grew up thinking, this is a sin, and yet he actually was homosexual, but he couldn't actually practice. He got married. His dad said, oh, great. He goes up in business a little bit. Oh, great. But then he fell back several times with actions against children or other people. That he went to jail, I think, a couple times. So his father pulled back from that. But okay, so it's easy to see. What's his psychoanalyst? He lures young men to his home, he chokes them, he has sex with them, he kills them, because he's killing his teenage, sexually aware homosexual self. I mean, you know what I'm saying? In other words, this is forbidden, but I can't stop doing it. And it's like suicide. He's killing himself each time. But he also, is having his sexual fantasy is homosexual, but that's forbidden. Since it's so forbidden, he has to actually kill the person that's acting out in it, whatever. I don't know how to say it. Okay, so that's an example. Others grew up, their mother was abusive, let's say Gary Ridgway or something, and did some really obnoxious things to them, embarrassing, exposing them, washing their genitalia, whatever. So there's a deep hatred of the mother dearest. So, and then he picked up a venereal disease from a woman. So there's this love-hate dichotomy going on, and he hates them, but he wants to have sex with them, but yet he wants to kill them because of the things that have happened to him. Okay. This is why I'm going to leave my job. There's one picture of Bundy where his hand is coming down, and his face looks complete agony with fear written in it. So what I'm saying is, men have, sexual arousal. And they will kind of be away from you because they're in their own little world because they're sexually aroused. Maybe they're watching a movie or who knows what's going on, but So somewhere along the line, and I said, what would make his face? Because that's what set me off. Why did his eyes turn black? And why did his unibrow connect across his forehead? And he just looked absolutely, I said, it must have been possession. Just because you're sexually aroused, why do you have to look so terrifying? But no, he was doing that because let's say you're growing up and you're watching Creature Feature, and there's a 16-year-old boy, somebody's older brother, and y'all are like 10 or 12 or whatever. And you're watching the creature feel. These have Boris Karloff, and there's somebody creeping through a cemetery, and it's got music, and you're watching, and you don't know what's going to happen next. Is somebody turn into a wolf or something? I don't know what's going to happen. Then all of a sudden one of the brothers grabs your arm, and everybody screams out in terror because he touched your arm right at the time they're creeping through the cemetery, and something's getting ready to happen. And he just thinks it's so funny that, like, Walter did this to my friend Kathleen. And so everybody thinks it's so funny, but okay. Somewhere along the line, Theodore Bundy equated terror with sex. And you think, oh, so he'd make somebody terror, and then he'd laugh about it inside himself. Look how scared they are. No, he wasn't laughing. He was also terrorized. In other words, whether they were dead or alive, sometimes they would actually be very copious. They would actually perform for him because they would be screaming in horror, and he would probably scream too. He was as scared, he was afraid as they were. He was as terrorized as the victim. That's why he tries to say, you don't know what that takes out of you. I was horrified at what I did, horrified. So I believe, and I can't get my mind wrapped around anybody, any human being on earth who would equate terror with a sexual encounter. Now, John Wayne Gacy had he would abhorred homosexuality. Yet he was homosexual. His father hated what he was becoming when he was a teenager, and he was growing up and becoming, I guess, prepubescent, whatever. And his father said, no, you're not going to be a pansy or so, whatever. So he had this secret that he could not do, so he's basically killing himself. It's easy to say, okay, though, he's got this problem with homosexuality, yet he is one. And so his father hated him so much he wished he was dead. So he takes a teenage boy, does what he does, and then the teenage boy's got to die in lieu of him. I don't know how to say it, was so sort of like that. So you kind of say, oh, okay. But Bundy would have this transformation of his face. Miss Lily, come here. You want to come up here? But if she comes up here, she won't be settled. She's like a little jumping bean or something. But anyway, we got to settle down. It's after midnight, Miss Lily. Okay, so Bundy, somewhere along the line, one of his neighbors says that he would take the children in the woods and scare the bejesus out of them. He would terrorize them. And I don't understand why some of this stuff didn't get back to his mother. Like the one woman says he took a stray cat and put it on, how you had wire clothesline back then, and somehow string that cat up and set it on fire. It would seem to me some of this stuff should have been getting back to his mother. And then when the FBI became looking, she should have been able to relay some of this stuff to the FBI or whoever was investigating him. And say, oh yeah, we had a few bad years, He tore mice apart. He set cats on fire. He'd go and pull people's skirts up and act like something horrible was going to happen. The children would come screaming out of the woods. And, it seemed like some of this would come back, right? But anyway, so I'm trying to do the psychoanalysis. It probably cost me my job. And I'm thinking, how could you have this, like you're possessed? Your eyes go black, and that picture where he's got his hand shoveling, you know what I'm talking about, that one where he's shoveling his hand down and it's got this grimace. I believe he really was terrorized. It wasn't just that he was terrorizing the victim. He also was terrorized while it was occurring, because that's what made him have sex, is the terror. Terror and sex were aligned. Stop it. Miss Lily, why all of a sudden at midnight are you doing this? Come on, dog. What are you doing? You had a hot dog? No, you had some barbecue potato chips too. Anyway, it's hard to get your mind wrapped around it because it's grotesque. It's just like that Polynesia, his persona went dark because and you say, well, some of the victims were clunked on the head. They were semi-conscious. How could they be terrorized? But in his mind, then he would be terrorized himself for what he'd done. Just abject terror, like you were thrown into the Holocaust. And, you're seeing things, say, oh, my God, this is, like if you were a human being and then suddenly you're in Birkenwald or you're in Auschwitz or something. You're not going to die there, but you're seeing it. You think, oh, my God, it's like hell, living hell. So he would enter that. Living hell was his sexual arousal. All right, thank you. It's horrifying. I mean, it's just like, you can't get your mind wrapped around somebody. I can kind of see why John Gacy was killing his younger self, and I can kind of see why Gary Ridgway had a love-hate thing between the women that gave him the venereal disease and his mother. Something that was implanted, like, I hate women, I'm going to kill them, or I don't know. I don't know what goes on. I mean, it's just very odd. But they said he had some woman tied to a boat on a tire. She was tied to the raft with an inner tube, and she was terrified and embarrassed of the things he had done, and he enjoyed jumping out at people and terrorizing. But it's not just that. It's not like the normal thing where we say, oh, okay, you come out of the hallway, or you're dressed like a creep for Halloween, it's scary, whatever. He literally would scare himself. Okay, thank you.